Hello viewers, welcome to the Lungleng show. It's been quite a long time that we have not produced any episode, but I think that a very quality or in rather a very meaningful episodes take time. Let's give that excuse. And for today, I think we have really made an effort to reach out to one very prominent Naga figure, who is a Naga. But I think he is hardly known by a lot of us, and he's that kind of unsung, very prominent figure, and very highly influential in his own area in terms of education. He is Dr. Darlando Khathing, and he is known for many things, I think, but for one very, very important that really stands out about him is he's the first Naga nuclear scientist. Have you ever heard of a Naga nuclear scientist? I haven't. I think, meeting a person like him really makes me think. I think there are many things that we need to talk about because we don't really understand how the nuclear science works. That's something that'll be very fascinating to have a conversation on this. One very important thing about him is also he has served as the Vice-Chancellor of Central University of Jharkhand. So he is the first, and I think so far the only person from the Northeast who has served as a Vice-Chancellor for a Central University. And he has served and worked there in Jharkhand for 5 years. And after serving there, he has come back to now Nagaland. And he has also he has taught in Northeastern Hill University, NEHU, he has taught physics there in NEHU as well. And finally, he is back to Dimapur to teach and to serve the Northeastern Christian University here in Dimapur, based in Dimapur, which in short we call it NEHU. Now he's the Pro-Chancellor of this NEHU Northeast Christian University. I think there are many things to introduce about him, and one thing that I would like to still mention is we know his father as one very popular figure. His father, Major Bhabha Khathing, and who hailed from Ukhrul, and he was the first tribal chief secretary of Nagaland. In fact, the second chief secretary of Nagaland, and among the Nagas, he was the first chief secretary to be he was the chief secretary in Nagaland. And I think, having come from such background, there are many things to learn from him, many things to really digest on what they really think about our society and in terms of education, in terms of professional development. So, Doctor, thank you so much for giving us your time to have this, a very candid conversation with you. And since you are here, and I learned about you, very recently that you are here. And finally, we got the chance to meet you and have this conversation. And thanks for giving us your time today. So, welcome to the show. And I would like to know how long you have been here in the university, Northeast Christian University.
This is now my 8th year here in NEHU. Mm-hmm. I joined 2017. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been here for the last 8 years now.
Yeah, and from our previous conversation, you said you were already retired in 2014. Yes. So what brought you to Nagaland and start involving again in the education system again?
Because this is my first posting to Nagaland in a way.
Okay.
My first engagement,
right.
official engagement. Because I have always served outside Nagaland, whether in NEHU in Shillong or in Jharkhand. But not in Nagaland. And when I retired as professor of physics from NEHU, we wanted to retire and just settle down and do some farming and such.
Yeah.
But here, this new university had started here, and they were wanting me to join here, which I declined for some time. Mm-hmm. So when they kept coming for almost for 2 years, then we thought this is God's calling. And said, okay, let's accept this and come forward. Mm-hmm. That's why we came. And we never dreamt of coming to serve in Nagaland at all. Yeah.
I truly believe that, from your professional experience and teaching experience in terms of managing the university, I'm sure many students and our community here will benefit a lot from you, from the vast experience that you have and expertise that you have. So I appreciate that you come back to our own people and, give your time to serve our own people in this manner. So I would personally say thank you to you for that. Yeah. And before we jump into other things, I would like to understand, when your father was a very popular figure, among the Nagas and even in the history of India, he was the one who brought Tawang into the Union of India when he was the army officer. he went on a mission and he managed to bring Tawang within the Union of India. I mean, literally snatching from China. So, and he was the chief secretary of Nagaland, and the first tribal chief secretary, first Naga chief secretary of Nagaland, and also he was the first tribal ambassador of India to Burma. I mean, among the tribal, he was the first person to be the ambassador. And I want to understand what kind of figure and what kind of person your father was as you saw him, as you grew up with him. Like if you were to describe about your father.
Because his background is training throughout, because he was in the army. He served in the Second World War in the B Force, and that's why he earned a lot of awards. He got the Military Cross then he's a member of the British Empire.
Right.
These are also the awards he got as a war hero. So his discipline was already there. So that came on in his civilian life. He maintained that discipline, very focused, very down to earth, and very upright. That was throughout wherever he served. And so we as children also, we looked at that, and. But at the same time, he was a father to us, very human, and we didn't feel, that he's a distant person out there, high up on the pedestal. No, he was very human, down to earth, and we loved him very much, and he cared for us, and we really respected him a lot. That's what.
In days like his, it was such time where education was very rare, and I mean, a person like him was able to achieve that much in his time, where we could not even think of like enrolling ourselves in schools. I mean, I wonder, can you shed light on how he was able to get education at that level and to the level of leadership that he was able to,
For my father?
Yeah.
Because he's from Ukur, and they itself, his parents themselves had encouraged to study. So he pursued his studies all over, because they had only up to KG in Ukur, then they had to go to Imphal for the higher, the mid-level. Then he had to go all the way to Shillong for the high school, because he didn't have in Imphal also. Then he joined Cotton College in Guwahati, and he graduated from Cotton College. From Cotton College, then he came back to Ukur and served as a headmaster as well. In Ukur. The British officers had already observed him and encouraged him, and all supporting him in his studies. Then when the war came, they then encouraged him, why don't you also enlist your services? So he readily did that, and he went, and he was recruited in Hyderabad. He joined the King's Commission, and he was one of the a regular officer, regular training. He was in 19 Hyderabad, his first posting, as a lieutenant there. Now 19th Hyderabad has gone to Pakistan. It's no more. Later became the Command Regiment. Okay. So that's where he is. But in the Second War, he served with the Assam Rifles. He was in the V Force, which is more or less a guerrilla approach type of thing, working underground behind enemy lines. Being from that area, because he was in the Burma Front, being from Ukur area, he used to disguise himself. He used to shave his head like a typical Tangkul tribesman there. He has a basket and his shawl, half pants type of thing, and go around the jungle behind enemy lines with his gun under the shawl. That type of thing. So a lot of stories and a lot of books have been written about him. And from there, then he used to inform the main divisions, others about what is going on. And that's how he was very respected in the war. Even now, when I happened to go to UK also, people recall and they invited me to speak in the forums in the UK when they knew that I had come.
Wow. That's a very distinct work and personality that we see him as today. And I think one of the most important things about you now as his children is you were able to get proper education, ahead of many people those days, and also you chose to study physics. I mean, that's in our society, science and physics, and to be a nuclear scientist is something that is out of our way, And you, as a person who led that kind of studies and who chose that path, I want to know what inspired you, first of all, to decide to take up physics in your life? That's something very,
Yeah, here's rather I would say rather interesting, because I did not have dreams of become a big physicist or something. I didn't have that. It's just simply my father was already now in the Indian Frontier Administrative Service. He was the first batch.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then when I have an elder brother. So then it was expected that, okay, the children would follow his footsteps. So my elder brother then went for civil service, and he joined the Central Service.
I see.
Then when it was my turn, I said, no, since my brother is doing arts, he's going for administration, I'll do science. So it was as simple as that. Not that I love science or something like that. So it was. Then when I applied, when we got into St. Stephen's, which is under Delhi University, so then I joined physics honors for there, and I carried on for masters out there also. When I joined St. Stephen's also, actually, I had seen a good advertisement for marine engineering in Calcutta, and I said, oh, that might not be bad, because then you can travel the whole world if you go for that one, all that.
Right.
So, but then since I had gotten to college already and started my classes, I got my admission only later. But no, I said, no, I've already joined here, I'll not go there. Even though earlier I thought that was attractive to go there, and I stuck on. So I carried on with that. And so once I started on, I stuck to that. So this is where, whatever we do also, if we are just consistent with that, and you can progress. You don't have to be, that's a great thing. You progress, you'll progress naturally. But just keep on in it. That's it. Be steady, be sincere. That's all you need to. Then from there, I went for my research to Calcutta. There's a institute called Jagdish Bose Institute. It's a very famous research institute. They have a nuclear science laboratory there, the only one there in Calcutta then. So I joined that laboratory, the nuclear science laboratory, and that's where I did my PhD. Yeah.
Okay. But as a nuclear scientist, are we as a person, as a community, and as a group of people, can we excel in physics, studies of physics, studies of nuclear science? We have the tendency that we are better at humanities, and as a group, as people who are known for that. But do you think we can also excel in any other STEM studies, like?
No, very much you can.
Yeah.
But anything, you see, now here we have there's sort of a phobia against mathematics.
Correct.
Anything to do with calculations on that side. Okay?
Yeah.
But there's the experimental part. See, for me also, I went for the experimental nuclear physics, not the theoretical nuclear physics.
Okay.
So then I had to work with my hands. So I had to design my own systems also in using nuclear facilities. So that's where, and for us, we're very good in that, working with our hands, our mind and hands together. So there's plenty of scope which suits our aptitude and also our attitude in practical things. So there's you can easily do physics, especially if you do experimental nuclear physics, if you're scared of maths and high calculations. You don't need to go for those ones.
Right. Yeah. So you were doing your even theoretical physics, right?
No, I did practical.
Practical physics.
Experimental.
Experimental. And can you explain a little bit on how that experimental physics, nuclear physics work?
So nuclear science is such a vast field.
Yeah, sure.
Mine, I chose a very small field. Is in mostly neutron physics is called, and there uses of and the power of using neutron activation. Then with that you have what that means by activation means when you talk the atomic level, then you have below that's the nuclear level where you have the very small particles. You can use those to actually be a force on something, to bombard something. Then in that level there are other particles called protons. You can use protons, other charged particles that can bombard something at that level, nuclear levels. So I use those for bombarding material science materials.
Okay.
And then I studied those materials, which we had, even now they have application in space science, for example.
Sure.
Because out there in space science, you're bombarded with all sorts of cosmic materials, nuclear materials inside. Now, will they last? Will they get damaged? Will they? So those type of studies one could do. And so that's how I did a lot of work on that.
Okay. I totally can imagine how vast the field must be, even for studies or to understand a little bit about it. When it comes to nuclear physics, I have no clue about it. But as far as I understand, it's like Albert Einstein is known for that, for having contributed so much in this field. I mean, how do you assess a person like him, and as someone who is specialized in nuclear physics, his
No,
contribution?
you can't compare that type. I mean,
Right.
he's way beyond, and his field is different. His
Okay.
more on relativity side. But it's finding is a way of thinking. A person's, his thoughts. Like now we say education. Our purpose of education is creation of knowledge. That's the purpose. Knowledge
Correct.
creators.
Yeah.
So he was that also, and he created that knowledge on a specific area or of approach in studying science, especially physics, and that became a fundamental science across the whole field of physics. His relative theory that he brought in. So these all have they're unique characters who comes once in a while, but they're really great.
I know, that's true. That's true. Who comes like once in the blue moon, like you will see these people. But also, like now, when you look at the nuclear programs in India, the Pokhran test, which came very popular in India, and I think that gave India a beautiful status, very powerful status since 1998, and that test so on. I mean, nuclear power is also quietly debated as in terms of its ethical concerns. We have our previous president APJ Abdul Kalam, who always time and again assured that nuclear power is safe, it's good for the country. But on the other side, you will see thousands of activists who are against the uses of nuclear power. And now, as someone who has done research and who has studied and who as a nuclear scientist, what is your view, and what are the which side would you let us know that, hey, this is fine, this is not fine?
So again, I said for nuclear studies is vast.
Right.
What you perhaps are referring is to perhaps the what you call the bombs and such.
Yeah,
where
the
you use,
debates, right.
Whereas the application of nuclear science, even you're doing it across for medical, it comes in vast fields of medical science and nuclear science that you're using, and they're tremendous. One area of my work also was in, using nuclear science, using experimental nuclear science, was studying environmental work, doing that type of studies also. So you could do almost anything.
I see.
Now, finally, it is the mind. Is it person? Everything comes back to human nature. How you use whatever you have, whether for good or for bad. So that's where it comes. That was everything is there. It has the power. You develop it. Now AI has come, very powerful.
Yeah.
But how you use it again depends on how much you let it control you, or you still know that you can control it and you can still do something. But if you don't, you can get lost there. So same thing with nuclear, any other thing that you have tremendous power in your hands. But how you use it is finding the person. So that's where the ethical and non-ethical part comes in, because finally it comes to the person.
True.
Yeah.
True. I think people are also bombarded with informations like the radiation that will last for millions of years once we find the nuclear residue, and I mean those are something that we cannot comprehend as ordinary citizens on that.
That of course, because what we when we talk of that, when you cover nuclear, if you see a nuclear exposure, either through a bomb or through anything else, the material that you're scared of is radioactive. We call it radioactive, which means it's giving radiation. And once you give that radiation, then that can harm you in different ways. Now, using the same radiation even for your cancer therapy, that's the same radiation. That's also radiation. Okay,
True.
But so it depends what it. But when you're talking of the impact that can happen by nuclear war or nuclear, yes, that'll last for maybe centuries. That's it. There's a term called half-life in nuclear sciences. Half-life of a radioactive material. That means this can live for say 100 years. Okay, so half-life is 50 years. Okay, something like that. So in 50 years, it should die down to half its strength. But there's some materials, the half-life is several hundred years. Then almost it's perpetual. Then you can't, it's practically there throughout. The strength remains. Instead of being halved after a certain number of years, its strength remains for a long time. And that's where the problem comes. And that's where the people are scared because of that, if they're exposed to that type of materials that are active. So this is where one is a bit careful. And so even in defense services and defense systems, now they're going more for hydrogen bombs rather than nuclear bombs, or they go for neutron bombs, because you're not making it radioactive. That itself destroys people and biological effects. It says like a microwave oven. You see, it's cooking, everything is cooking, but it doesn't burn the thing. It just goes right through. It goes right through. The radiation goes right through there. So it's almost like that. But as soon as it's put off, there's no radiation there.
Okay.
So those type of things are there. Whereas some materials we're talking to traditional, say uranium type, you're talking of this type, and then those can be long lasting, and then you can have these long lasting effects.
So in your experience of research, I mean, what I would like to know, some of the papers, your papers that you have published, I mean, after your PhD, what were the main areas that you touched upon when it comes to the nuclear physics?
Mine was varied. I started with more or less my own nuclear physics, where I said I was using most neutrons.
Okay.
There's part of a nuclear particle there, and using that to study other materials. So with neutrons, you can bombard any material. You can bombard a piece of paper, you can bombard metal, you can bombard water, you can bombard anything. Because you create a beam, a very fine beam, or in the case of neutrons, it's not a beam, but it goes all 360 degrees. You expose there, and then once you expose it, this gets activated, this material. So it becomes radioactive, in other words. And when you study the radioactive property of this material, and then that can be for anything, for as far as purity is concerned, as far as biological tissues are concerned, water is concerned. You can do one was where when this material, for example, one major work that I had done that time was on even human hair, your hair that you have. The hair grows approximately 1 centimeter per month. That's the average thing. So you have a 6 centimeter length of hair. It means you can talk of 6 months history of a person. Now you study each centimeter along the hair, about what is there in that hair. Then you can, in a way, get an idea of last 6 months what that person has been exposed to. Suppose, like, for example, if somebody has been poisoned, like it was believed that Napoleon was poisoned, arsenic poisoning. But that's found from his hair. From the hair he found a tremendous amount of arsenic in the hair. Now to find that level of parts per million, you call it, that low level of is not easy. So nuclear science is one way of going to that level of detection. And so you can find it out. And so if somebody has been taking, again, if you say, I'm just sticking to one level, say, in forensic science, if you want to find out whether a person has been given poison for the last 6 months or so, we study each centimeter of that hair. Then we say, yes, it has been carrying on, or no, the earliest 6 months was not there, fifth month, but from there we find there's increase in arsenic. So it's possible that he's been ingesting arsenic. That is the way one does, for just a simple example. But just from hair itself, you can tell about, exposed to environmental exposure, what type of environment you're working in, whether in office or whether outside. You can tell. You can about there. And hair itself is almost like a fingerprint.
I see.
Each person's the number of trace elements. You can have about 50, 60 elements there. Copper, cobalt, gold, iron, nickel, everything is there. If you detect by nuclear techniques, you can detect all these. And so the pattern of one to the other persons, they differ. So even in a scene of crime, if you find, very often if they're struggling, say, and there'll be hair there. Pick up those hair, you study that pattern there in the hair, you study it from the suspect. If they match, it's quite likely this comes from the suspect's head. That was one of my earlier studies which I did, because I was also a fellow of the Central Bureau of police research. I was a fellow there, and I did that work for them.
Wow.
That's why I come across. We did gunshot, for example. How, from what distance a person has shot.
Right.
That's what nuclear technique can tell you. By studying the target, the pattern on the target, on the body or on the object where the bullet has struck.
Okay.
By studying we cut rings around the target there, and you can study at what distance the person was probably shot. So that means we discount, say, for example, suicide, say.
Yeah.
So these are of course these are supporting documents, not absolute, but they're supporting.
Right.
So these are studies that we did.
It can suggest a lot of evidence.
It can. So it helps in this type of even in police work. It helps.
So that's how powerful our hair is.
That's as powerful your hair is.
So if you find like 3,000, 2,000 or 1,000 years ago, like of artifacts that include here, that means we can still definitely study how they use it.
You can study. So you might wash it off. See, the surface part is still be there because that comes from even dust inside can come in.
Right.
But what's ingested in there, which comes through the bloodstream, that isn't there. That remains.
Okay. So let's say we come down from Kohima today, and if I left imagine that I left my hair in the office, and then when you pick that up and study, you will be able to study the environment that I lived in and the weather that I lived before I come down. Like
not so. To some extent.
Okay, to some
For example, now because not an absolute like that, just by one piece of hair, no, you can't do just that.
Right.
Because as I said, quite likely we looked at pattern of the distribution of the trace elements there, and you get from the person. From somebody's head, you can match whether they come from the same head.
Okay.
So that's where, from police point of view, yes, this is suspect this hair matches like a fingerprint matches. Okay, then you can say. But not if you get a piece of hair somewhere and say, oh, this is that person's. No, you can't do that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, at most you can say, okay, this hair is not from here, and there seems to be a very high level of iron here, for example. Yeah, which is not around here. So this person must have come from a factory area, from a whoever's visited you, or somewhere where he works with metal things. That's the only inference you can do, nothing more.
Very generic information.
Because it needs a more supportive thing to be.
I think this will give a lot of suggestions to police who try to investigate, especially like you mentioned, and it will definitely lead them to some direction and make a conclusion about it.
It'll help them.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. I mean, if you can just educate our youngsters on pursuing in the nuclear physics, how would you like to pass your knowledge, as in your guidance, as in like, please, hey, this is the potential of going to this stream, going to this field of studies, and if you do this is very important, and you can really have a fascination about these studies. Do you have any suggestion and guidance for our viewers?
There's because tremendous scope is there, but as I said, you need not think of it just as theoretical. So don't be afraid.
Right.
There are a lot of things that are actually down to practical things, experimental based, and that's where we can, for us from here, we can easily pursue, and becomes very interesting. The applications are tremendous in nuclear sciences. In all fields, whether it's as simple, even in botany, for example, for agriculture. Okay, you're not using nuclear. When you say nuclear, it doesn't mean you're using atomic bombs or something like that. No, you're using a field of nuclear sciences. In the nuclear science, for example, in medical also it's called isotopes, which are radioactive things.
Right.
That's where you ingest and you see where it goes in your bloodstream, and you can find out what is affecting what location something is wrong. Like iodine, for example, when they have some problems in the throat for iodine, you put that, and then it's radioactive. So then you can detect where it's going, and that you can trace it. In plant sciences, they put these isotopes, that means radioactive materials, in the soil. The plant will absorb that the soil, the water and thing into the thing, and they can trace it's going, because active is radioactive. So you can study where has it reached a stem, has it reached a leaf, you can trace when it's reached what. So that way you can monitor the growth pattern of a plant also, and that's done very often in many places. And sometimes to help plants grow, they actually have a radioactive garden. they have a garden, like a normal garden where you plant whatever, and then you have a radioactive source, which is based on nuclear science only. It's very active, so it's dangerous. But you, from the ground where it's sealed properly, you take it out to the air. It exposes all those plants for a certain time, 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever time you give it. Put it down again. Then you see the effect of radiation on those plants. And it's found that sometimes it helps to grow, or it kills certain pests or something like that. So there are a lot of work just in agri that does this. So these are all part of nuclear sciences.
I see.
Yeah, it's not just necessarily bursting bombs.
Right. I think maybe as a common man, our understanding about nuclear physics is very limited. Like we can just think and imagine of nuclear bombs and nuclear power and energy sources. I think, like you said, the application is vast and it's varied. So that's one takeaway from this conversation. And now, as a pro-chancellor of a university like a Northeast Christian University, I mean, like we have a lot of educational institutes, even in Dimapur, even in the whole Nagaland. What stands out as a university about your college, about this university? What stands out, and what is the vision that the university has?
See, for us, being a Christian university, we do try to lay stress on on the faith part, not necessarily Christians, not Christianity, but Christian-based teachings and behavior and personality, where we need to talk of integrity, we need to talk of compassion, we need to talk of honesty. So these are what we do. So now it's easy to talk about them, it's fine. But what we do is, for compassion and sensitivity, for example, is compulsory for all our undergraduate students for the first 2 semesters. They have to undertake 6 weeks of attachment to a community or to do some community work. So we attach them with an old age home, for example.
Okay.
When you go to an old age home, they learn how to feed, how to be patient, how to tell stories, how to clean them, all that. See, that's human nature again. So we're actually teaching them down to earth, practical things. Not just saying be good and be kind and take care of them. No, we're teaching them and we're practicing it. So you go to an orphanage, for example. They talk with children, they sing with them, we dance with them, all that. So that they're talking about, again, human nature. So this is where we have this. We make it compulsory also that we have internships from the first year itself, first semester, not wait till 6th semester. Okay. So that people get some idea of later on being independent to work for themselves. So these are things that we are open to almost any idea. We're not being our own university, that we have the freedom to introduce almost any field, any discipline. But what we do is we look at what is the subject. Okay, is it viable? Is it relevant? Will it help in improving the quality of life of people? If yes, then say why not? We say why not? And so that way we have a lot of areas that we have introduced in our university, which most do not have. University don't have. We have now emotional health care. That's postgraduate thing. That is no one. And there's lots of medical people. Professional medical. That's being introduced. We have tie-up from Australia. So we have indigenous studies. We have vocal educators. That means how people are teaching singing is fine and vocals, but many have not really had training on how to teach the vocals, the technical part. So we are giving a 4 months course on that through professionals on that day. So these are things that we have introduced, and we have this, and many more are coming in this.
So because your institute is not just a college, it's just not institute, it's a university. So is it a full-fledged university?
Yes, it is a full-fledged university, because as a university, for any university we are full-fledged to be recognized by the University Grants Commission.
Correct.
It has to be established through an act of either state government or central government. Ours was passed by the act of state government of Nagaland through an act passed in 2012. By passing the act, it fulfills the UGC criteria for establishing a university. So that then the visiting team also comes, UGC visiting comes to confirm, yes, you have whatever you need. And that team has come 5 years ago. They've given everything okay, and they've given writing also, that's fine. So we are fully recognized to confer degrees.
But it's not a state-funded
No,
university.
it's a private university.
It's a private university. I mean, like, it's a Christian university, and it's like I got an information. It's visualized by, like you mentioned, the CPCNI, Council of Baptist Churches of Northeastern India. So I wonder, such a big university, and I think educational institutes and educational institutions cost a lot, and they have huge spending. You know, when you run an institution, it's very, very expensive. How do you manage to run an university like this as a private institution?
Certainly, it needs a lot of resources
Right.
to run. You see, in fact, as per the Act passed by Nagaland State Assembly, there are almost 120 subjects that we can initiate. It's already
Okay.
approved.
Right.
It's all sorts of engineering, agriculture, forestry,
Okay.
religion, on Chinese mythology. All these are there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But we don't have the resources for that. We need resources for all this. That's why we started with very few subjects now. Till last year, we offered only 5 subjects in social science and humanities. But we also have medical, nursing and GNM. Allied health also we have. This year, we're adding 4 more humanities subjects.
Okay.
So by increasing number of subjects, hopefully we'll have more students. By more students mean more revenue, and then hopefully you can run and pay for the teachers and such. But our university being conceptualized by the CPCNI, that when they first conceptualized it and they brought forth this proposal, that time it was felt that we have a lot of church members in CPCNI. As of today, there are over 9,000 churches who are members of CPCNI.
In whole Northeast.
In the whole Northeast.
Correct.
So then, which means resources are there to support this university.
Potential contributors are there.
Yeah, potential contribution. Yeah. Unfortunately, most churches do not seem to know about the university, the existence of university, and that's where we're having the challenge of, going around telling them about our existence. Because once they know about our existence, they come forward, the churches. But most, more than 98% do not still know about the university, and that's where we are lacking in resources. Otherwise, no problem.
Correct. I get it. I mean, the potential donors are there, for education. Definitely, I think church will definitely support, because church and education are highly synonymous in many ways, even the Catholic Church, even the Baptist Church also. But what I would like to know is, in what way can the churches support? Because about 98% don't know about this, the way they can support, and do not even know the existence of a university like this. So what are the possible ways they can help and support?
See, finally we need, of course, prayers are always there. Prayers are always there. But we also need hard, for example, we need hard cash, for example.
Correct.
To pay for some. We have to construct buildings.
Right.
That we need funds for that. We have to pay salaries. We need funds for that. Right? So now we don't have enough students. Later when we grow, then yes, we'll be independent. So what we had proposed about 4 years ago was, if each church can contribute 5,000 rupees per year, which means about only 500 per month.
5,000?
Per year. One church.
Okay.
It means for 3 years. We didn't say for perpetual. For 3 years. 15,000 total commitment. Okay. We said we'll be able to pull along. Then we don't ask you any more money. So far, only one church has responded.
Oh, okay.
So this is but now what I understand is the churches don't know about this proposal. So I don't blame them. But this is a proposal. Now, more recently, we are so fortunate that some associations have come forward. Angami Baptist Council of Churches, they've come forward. And they then ask each baptized member, okay, or it's not even baptized member, maybe Baptist member. Not baptized by Baptist member.
Yeah.
That means each family member, put it that way.
Right.
Okay, to contribute 100 rupees from each family. Which means some family 200, some 500 like that. So last year they contributed and we got enough money to complete one floor of one building. This year the Chakasang Baptist Council of Churches has come forward. We will contribute for a second building, also collecting 100 rupees only from each member. That's it. So it's nothing major. It's just that. Larger things, okay, how about supporting this floor? We have a campus in Medzifima. Now we have 500 acres there. Earlier it was 250 acres, now we've got 500. The road is complete, you can reach there. But we need to develop. How about major churches, organizations, or conventions, taking up some project there, to build and put in their name, and have activities of their choice also, no problem. But there are different ways one can do. So we've asked, one is membership, patron member. As individual or family can become a patron member, as 10 lakhs. Founding member, that's 1 lakh. Well-wishers, any amount. But we also say, okay, we need chairs. These chairs cost 1,500. How about one chair, or 2 chairs, or whatever? We need bricks, we need steel. How about give one truckload or whatever? It's like, then we need, if you are expert in some field to teach, or you're interested in your own subject, why don't you come here and hold a seminar, and we'll facilitate that, so that you share your knowledge and experience with others as well. We'll be the platform for that. How about that? If churches can support a faculty, or why not? We offer 50% scholarship to one nominee of each association. There are now about 120 associations of CBCI. 50% scholarship we offer. Tuition. Okay. So then inform your people that there's a scholarship for that also, and nominate somebody to come here. There are 120 associations, say. At least we get 120 students. That helps us. But so far, only about 6 associations have sent nominees in the last 4 years. So this is the thing. Now, why is it not percolating? What is happening? We don't know. But we would like to encourage it. And now through this, I hope the church members will also know that there is such a thing as these fellowships. There is such a thing as NEHU. And this belongs to you, to them. They set it up, not us. We are here to help fulfill their vision, not our vision. So that's all.
Like you say, you're just an employee.
Yes,
just to implement the vision that they have. Right, I think it really makes sense. I think education is worth investing in if a church, because it's a university built by the collection of the churches, CPC and I. So if every church starts contributing even a few thousands a year, I mean that will go a long way.
Very much.
Right. So I think this is something. I mean, the church can take notice of this, and maybe to proliferate education in our community. This can really be taken up in a manner that will really benefit the community. I think if we look around the education ecosystem here, how would you like to describe and how it can benefit students who come here? Because as of now, I myself do not know everything about what this university offers at this moment, and how it can be distinct from the rest of the institutes and universities, or maybe how students can equally get benefited from here.
So what as I said, we try to train them all-rounder. Not the subject we try to make as best as possible, get good faculty, and then make them also be involved in personality, experiential training and exposure. That's what you do. So they become a total full person, become more confident when they go out. But what we also do in our programs to enhance the quality of our programs, whatever we do, we have tie-ups with different organizations and institutes across the country. For example, for international relations. Okay, we offer international relations at the bachelor's level. There's hardly any other university at bachelor's level. Postgraduate level, yes, but undergraduate, hardly any across the country. That's because we're located here in Northeast, and with ACE's policies and the ASEAN Highway going through our thing, we know anytime this will happen. So why not be prepared for that? So that's how we do. That's why we made it a major subject in our university. Now for that, we have tie-up with St. Stephen's, for example. They have they conduct a 1-month diplomacy course where actual diplomats are teaching that course or sharing that course. Our students also have joined that course. So then we get a special course from St. Stephen's itself for our students. So then that uplifts the quality of our own teachers. In English, we made it compulsory for our students to join TESOL, which we also teach. TESOL is teaching of English to speakers of other languages. That's essential for anywhere you go abroad, especially you want to work in non-English speaking areas. That's an important certificate. Many churches do that for their own work. So we make that compulsory. For management, we have faculty former faculty from the XLRI, Jamshedpur,
Right.
that's the top organization for human resources in the country.
Okay.
They come here and they teach, online they teach. So we have this tie-up with them.
Okay.
So, so we for psychology now, because the last year, one of our persons from America, she has donated already a lab kit which can test the teaching capabilities of people, right from children to adults.
Okay.
16 different tests we have. The kids are with us, and they have to come here to train so that it will be open to anyone, practitioners, through us. So, but that's how we raise the level of our teaching, not just our own faculty, but we have experts from other parts of the country as well as abroad. So, so according to the subject that we have, we associate with different people, and that's how we know our teaching is not bad. I mean, it's of course certain standards and fairly high standard we have.
Well, I'm sure many people can get benefited from here because there are colleges and institutes even in a state like Nagaland, and you don't really find about courses like international relations. And you to study international relations, you may have to get out of Nagaland and go to Delhi or other states to study. But I think having a university like this and getting a course like this is, I mean, one kind of a blessing that people can enjoy. So, I mean, all in all, I wonder why Dimapur is chosen to be the place for the Northeast. Because when we talk about Northeast, we think of Guwahati as a center. I'm sure that's not part of your decision, but still, like, how can Dimapur be the place to spread across the northeastern states for a university like this?
As far as NEHU is concerned,
Yeah.
because it belongs to, I mean, it was, as I said, investigated by the CPCNI, which has its stakes across different states. At that point of time, there were discussions where to locate this university. Assam also wanted that. Why not in Assam? Then Garo Hills also, they said like that. But now, what they're looking at is the government that is there, the environment for sightseeing.
I see.
And if you have a Christian university in Assam, saying that other issues can be there, okay, which we are now seeing what's happening there.
Yeah.
Whereas Nagaland was then found the best, and the Nagaland government also was most supportive. Yes, you do it here, we'll support. And immediately the bill was passed also. Within hardly a few years after that, they even allotted land for us, free of cost, in Medswima.
Wow.
You see, that's the support we got. So that's how it was located. But also now that we come to think of it, Dimapur, it has very good accessibility. When we look at any university, it should have good accessibility. By rail, we have by road,
Makes
by
sense.
air. Yeah, and then from the northeast also, it doesn't take them too long to come here to Dimapur, whether it's from Manipur or from Arunachal or from, because fairly central
Right.
for the northeast itself.
Right.
So that way we're quite well located.
Okay.
And if we're talking of the Asian link from here, which Asian highway is going through Dimapur to Imphal to Moray and others, that's also coming through here. So then we're very well located. So actually, it's very central.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for explaining that. I mean, putting your effort in that. I think this has been a very enriching and enlightening for me as someone who wants to learn more about the university and about your life and about the work areas of work that you have done. So I'm sure having a stager, a personality, academic personality like you leading the institute, I'm sure it'll benefit many students and the education and the students community as well as faculty community as such and the academics community of Nagaland. So, any last thoughts that you would like to share as a pro-chancellor or as an individual?
So, the only one thing I'd like to share also as far as university, we have a distinct achievement as far as national distinct achievement as far as the university is concerned.
Okay.
Our university is the only organization, whether it's university or institution or private organization in the country that's accredited by the National Accreditation Board for certifying bodies, that's the Government of India central body, to evaluate and certify traditional healers.
The traditional
Healers, what you call copyright.
Okay.
So now people say copyright, okay, like they're quacks, whatever. But you remember many of these people, especially in the villages, they are the only doctors or medical people available.
True.
And they're doing tremendous service to the community. Okay? And most of them, the ones in the village are genuine. You can, in the cities, of course, a lot of other things are there, might be there, but still, they're very genuine.
Achha.
And they've got the knowledge and skill through their forefathers, not written. practice.
Yeah.
So now the Quality Council of India, which is the highest body for quality in the country, all your Indian standards and food safety, all this National Bureau for hospitals, NABH, NABL for laboratories, all come under Quality Council of India. They had a pilot program about 10 years ago to say, how about recognizing people who have special skills? And they chose this topic
Okay.
together with IGNU. Okay? Because IGNU was working on traditional areas and such things. How about this one? And so they formulated the way of assessing, how to assess a traditional healer. And then later, after they did that, they did exercise, it was successful. Then they threw it open to anyone who wants to become a certifying body,
I see.
a third party. So we also applied. We went through training and through that, and we are qualified. And then we did very well. After that, we went higher. We got ourselves accredited by a national board. We are the only one in the country to do that. And so now we can evaluate and certify our traditional healers that they fulfill national and international levels of their practice. And these people who we've done, in Nagaland, we have certified about 100 already. No, Nagaland, no. In the Northeast, we've certified about 120 Northeast.
I see.
Tripura, Manipur, Meghalaya, Arunachal, Nagaland, Assam, we have done already. Nagaland about 30.
I see.
Okay, right from Transang area to Dimapur area we've done.
Okay.
Because that comes by application. We don't. So now their names are there in the national website.
Okay.
So it's not just we keep it as a secret. No, it's their national website, the
Right,
Quality Council of India website. You can find out. In Transang, there's a bone healer, bone setting person. His name is this one. His phone is here, and you can contact him. Anyone from the world can contact him.
Oh, I
So
see.
we've lifted them up. They can't come to universities.
Right.
They're practicing them in remote areas.
Right.
But we're now recognizing such people. And for that, we need support from the government or others because it costs money also to go and evaluate. We have to send somebody all the way to Transang to study. Yeah, and then so that's why we need support in this also. So, but that's something that our university is doing.
Okay.
That's because we feel in the Northeast, tradition, culture, biodiversity, we are rich in these.
Yep.
Then concentrate on these where you're rich in, rather than go for also rocket science and such. Yeah. Then people from all over the world come
Right.
here.
Right.
So that's what.
I think that's very unique. That's
Yeah,
very
that's unique.
beautiful in a
Yeah,
way.
unique,
You know, this traditional knowledge, I mean,
Yes.
in that way, it is preserved and it is promoted as
Yes,
well.
yes.
And for us, normally, when we see them in the village, we take them for granted. We're like, okay, they know it, let's get it done. But there is no way they can earn out of it as their source of livelihood. So in that way, if we promote them, definitely, I think they will get benefited as well. So thanks for sharing this beautiful insights and knowledge. I'm sure the viewers that come on our platform will be benefited from this, and definitely they might love to look up on your website also,
Okay, yeah.
like this traditional healers, and approach them as and when there is a requirement for that.
One minor
Sure.
correction in your introductory
Okay.
remarks when you said I'm the first person from Northeast being Vice-Chancellor of a Central University. The qualifying here is of a Central University located outside the Northeast.
Okay, outside the Northeast.
Yes.
Okay.
Because within Northeast, there are many people who have been Vice-Chancellors.
Yeah, university located outside the
Outside
Northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah. I tried to mean that maybe the language was not okay to the full. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Yeah,
And I'm sure this will serve our people. And I wish you all the very best. And thank you also for serving our people in your. When you reach 75, you're still able to serve our people. That's a wonderful thing.
God is
and
good.
may God bless you with good health.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
All the best to you too.
Thank you.
God
Thank
bless.
you.